Hey there, everyone. We need to chat real fast.
Before Amanda and I get back to it, we have something that's a little lighter.
Well, just a little, but just as important.
We all hate the initial shock of seeing our insurance bill and the lack of transparency when it comes to understanding health coverage.
Your mom would be so proud of you, Courtney.
Aw, rest in peace, Mom. In honor of you, I'm carrying your insurance broker torch, somewhat.
If you're all thinking, this sounds like me, let me introduce you to Indie Pop.
Indie Pop isn't just another player in the healthcare game. They're the game changers for the independent souls out there.
The freelancers, the self-employed artists, people like us, and everyone in between who makes up a whopping 1/3 of our workforce.
With over 60 million people facing the all too familiar challenge of finding affordable quality healthcare, Indie Pop is the righteous bee buzzing back to its hive equipped with plenty of honey.
Now, let's talk about Indie Pop difference. It's like discovering key evidence at a crime scene and suddenly it all adds up.
Now, aren't you all sick of navigating through complex networks that change the moment you cross state lines?
Getting tangled in the web of confusing pricing and elusive coverage?
Feeling like a ghost in the system where you feel more like a number and less like an actual living and breathing human?
I know I am, and I am willing to bet you all are too.
But Indie Pop says nope. No more unexpected bank-draining medical bills. This is healthcare that's not out to sting you in the butt.
Picture this, an open network that empowers you with the freedom to choose your caretakers. Manifest on transparent pricing with set rates for major medical needs and for hospitalization.
And the best part? Savings that could range between 20% to 70% compared to traditional insurance carriers. Oh, man, that sounds so good.
But what's the catch, right? There is no catch. It's simply healthcare as it should be, designed for the independent population, tailored to fit your budget and your lifestyle.
And because we love you and we have your back, Indie Pop has delivered with a special offer just for you. Visit info.indiepop.co/nefarious.
That's info.indipop.co/NEFARIOUS to learn more and join the revolution of care without all the BS.
We'll be sure to include the link in the episode notes so that way you can buzz on over to it easy peasy.
Indie Pop. It's healthcare that's got your back, not stabbing it.
A Nefarious Nightmare contains themes that may be explicit or triggering for some. Specific warnings and disclaimers will be mentioned in the show notes. A Nefarious Nightmare assumes all parties that are mentioned in these cases to be innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. Listener discretion is strongly advised. You can help us grow the show by leaving us a 5-star written review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, or you can join our Patreon for lighthearted bonus content. With this, welcome to Season 6.
Today, we will be discussing Samantha Tapp, a 16-year-old girl who grew up in the system alongside her close sibling, Kendale. Sam went missing from her home in Burleson, Texas back in 2004 and has since been classified as an endangered runaway. Many believe that those who go missing for long periods of time have in fact succumbed to murder. However, for Kendale and Sam's best friend Vanessa, they believe otherwise.
You know, empathy is a funny thing. You've everyone circling you, telling you one thing, but your gut instinct is telling you something completely different. And you can't disregard your gut instinct because it rarely, if ever, fails you. And that's what we've been telling you all from the very beginning, is to never ignore that feeling. So to honor the wishes of the two young ladies that we're interviewing today, we will not presume that Sam Tapp has left the Earth realm. And I'm Courtney Fenner.
And I'm Amanda Cronin. And A Nefarious Nightmare presents, are you listening? Missing Samantha Tapp.
Unbeknownst to us, this season seems to have a bit of a theme going on. The majority of the crimes and mysteries that we're discussing have all been in Texas. Last week, we traveled to Fort Worth, which is about 150 miles northeast of Brownwood, where the heartbreaking case of Leon Laurellis had occurred. And from Fort Worth, we're taking a short day trip to Burleson, where I actually lived when we first started this podcast. Burleson is only about 16 miles south of Fort Worth and is usually a straight shot on I-35. However, if you know anything about I-35, you know that depending on traffic, you could be there in 18 minutes or you can be there in 2 hours, which has actually happened to me. Welcome to Texas, y'all.
Texas is vast, so while the initial shock of stuff happening here never really wears off, it's also not a surprise that there has been a plethora of cases to discuss. Not to compare, well, maybe a little. If you see it like New Mexico, where there's a lot of desert, but bordered by bigger cities and metropolitan areas, then we would guess that approximately 48% of missing persons cases could be solved if we had a lot of foot searches happening in our vast desert areas. Now, we know that these statistics are impossible to accurately portray, and this isn't to say that we think all of those who are missing are deceased, but we do unfortunately have to wake up to the fact that many are. We have to keep in mind that missing does not always equate to murdered, but many unfortunately are. In this case, however, we will be talking to two people who believe that the missing is actually still alive.
Ironically, and speaking of Texas, Amanda and I actually met Kendale and Vanessa at the True Crime and Paranormal Podcast Festival in Austin this year. I went outside to just get away from the social anxiety that I was having, only to meet two young ladies outside. And I would describe the initial meeting as a little uncomfortable and awkward, as I would come to find out during the interview that all three of us were actually in great company with each other. I found out that we all were stepping out of our comfort zone and introducing ourselves. All three of us have been known or self-described to be socially awkward, but when you're at any networking or social event, you have to do just that. Be social and network. So I asked them if they had a podcast, and they told me that they were there to talk about their missing sister and friend, Samantha Tapp. And I felt it in my belly that I really wanted to help these ladies out in some way, especially because their biggest ask is that they want everybody to talk about Sam and to remember Sam. So here we are doing this episode. So let's find out who Sam is.
Samantha Leanne Tapp went missing from Burleson, Texas on October 12th, 2004 at the age of 16. She is described as a free spirit, a little rebellious, and very funny. She is a white female with brunette hair, piercing and deep brown eyes, a smile with a retiring nature behind it, and last seen at approximately 5'4" to 5'6", and between 112 to 120 pounds. Despite her older sister Kendall's efforts to classify her disappearance as a missing persons case, law enforcement initially designated it as a runaway situation. Samantha and Kendall had experienced a difficult family situation and spent time in foster care before reuniting with their grandparents in Burleson. On the day of her disappearance, Samantha visited Kendall but left angrily after an argument. Kendall assumed Samantha would return, but she never did. To date, Kendall believes in her heart that Sam is still alive, and while our minds always want to go to the dark places, we don't want to discourage that hope. So, we will assume that Sam is still alive and hope that by some miracle, she is listening, or someone that knows her currently is, because this is a case of a sister desperately searching for her beloved sibling.
Some of you listening to this episode will likely assume that Kendale and Vanessa were unfazed by all of this, and you might even note a bit of playfulness when remembering certain quirks between them and their dynamic, but let me ask you all a question ahead of this. If you were missing, would you want your family and friends to dissolve all hope and be sad all the time? I don't think so. This is a situation that's hard to digest for anyone, but certainly Sam wouldn't expect anything less from these two. While they remember the lighter and quirky times, it reminds us all of the many nuances of a friendship or a sibling dynamic. Because what I saw while interviewing and speaking with these two were two strong and tenacious women who just want their friend and their sister back, and at the very least, to know where she is. I saw them both start to break down and cry, and I wish I could express how that made my heart feel. It's a situation that seems like it's without hope, but these two will not stand down until they know something, and I'm sure that you all can respect that. I know I fucking do.
We sat down with Kendale, Sam's sister, and Vanessa, Sam's best friend, and we will go ahead and give the floor to them to tell you about it.
My name is Kendale Wyatt. I am Samantha's sister, her older sister. I am 36 years old, from Burleson, Texas, and I have 2 kids and a wife and grandparents who live with me, 2 dogs. I'm an IT professional, I suppose. I've got my master's in information technology, and I do nerd stuff all day. In my spare time, I do like to DIY stuff at my house. Samantha's my sister, so I have known her forever.
I'm Vanessa Steppen, and I'm 35. I am married, and I've been married for 6 years to my husband. We don't have any kids, but we have one one-eyed poodle, and he's fantastic. Sam was my best friend in high school, and I am a hairstylist, and I love what I do, and I love to craft and anything kind of artsy. I believe I met her in middle school. I want to say it was probably, it might have been intermediate. It might have been 5th or 6th grade that we met. So, I mean, probably over 20 years for sure. We clicked, immediately, and I was basically just accepted. And then when I started coming over and hanging out and meeting all the other sisters, everybody just treated me like a sister.
We grew up in a house of girls, so growing up, our relationship was sometimes strained, but I would say overall we were very, very close, closer obviously than the rest of the girls that we lived with, because we were biological sisters amongst our adopted sisters. We had our ups and downs, but overall our relationship was very solid. I don't know exactly how many sisters we have. I like to say that I have 13 sisters because those are the ones that I remember growing up with the most in life. So whenever I count them, I count 13 because those were the ones that I spent the most time with when I was growing up. So in the family, there were 3 sets of biological sisters who were adopted. Me and Sam, and there was a group of sisters of 3 and then another group of sisters of 2. We were all adopted. The rest of them were all foster, but I count the foster because they were there for a long time. I would say that Samantha was extroverted. She was very much a people person, a people pleaser. She liked to go out and do things.
Oh yeah, she was always out and about, wanted to get out, wanted to see friends, we walked everywhere because we didn't have our driver's license yet. So, we'd just go everywhere.
When she was younger, before she went missing, she was super outgoing, super energetic. She was happy and laughing and liked to make jokes and be sarcastic, much like I still am now. I think it runs in the family. She loved animals. We had a lot of animals. I feel like I can't even count how many animals we had while we were growing up, and they were all hers, except maybe one. And she loved music. She had a ton of CDs that I got after she went missing, and had a very eclectic taste in music.
She was very silly, very goofy, she had a very goofy sense of humor, and she loved to hang out with friends and have fun, and she was just a little weirdo. She was, goofy is the best way I can describe her. She would make weird faces all the time just to try and make anybody laugh. She was also very kind, and if she loved you, you knew it. She showed it, and she would do things for you, absolutely. And she was just one of a kind. I've never met another Sam, for sure.
Well, real quick, let's also be real. She was a little hellion sometimes. She liked to torture the crap out of me. She thought it was like the best thing. Just if she could make me scream because she was picking on me, it was like it made her day. But now looking back at it, I love that. It was little sister picking on me because I was the smaller one. She has been missing for 19 years as of October 12th. I can't think of anybody who would want to hurt her. I mean, we, like I said, grew up in kind of an interesting dynamic. We were the foster kids and then adopted. And I mean, we learned to adapt to people pretty well. She was very good at blending in and, like I said, people pleasing. And I can't think of anybody who would want to physically harm her.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody either. Not that I remember. Now, I don't think she would back down from a fight, for sure, because she could, get in it with the best of them if she needed. I've seen her fight her own sisters. Hell. But I can't think of any enemies. With teenage girls, there's plenty, that you don't like somebody or whatever, but usually it's just drama and it doesn't mean anything.
When she went missing, she was 16. I do not remember what she was wearing for the life of me. I have tried, just like I can't remember how she got to my house before she went missing. So basically the story is that she was angry. She was living with my grandparents and was angry about something and came to my house. I was living with my boyfriend. And she came. I can't remember how she got there. I just remember she showed up at the door and was upset. And while she was there, my grandparents informed me that they had reported her as a runaway. And having been in the system, I know what that entails. It means that my boyfriend's mom could get in trouble because she knew that she was there and was keeping her there. So I told her she had to leave because I didn't want them to get in trouble. I was like, just go back and, we'll figure something out. But right now they've already reported you. You have to go back and then, we'll figure this out. And she left upset and I never heard from her again. As far as we know, that's the last time that she was seen. There is a report from my grandparents. They reported to the police that they thought that she had come back to the house in the days following her leaving. And they said that there were some chairs arranged in the backyard in a circle, like she had people there. There were cigarettes in the middle. She was smoking at the time. So it looked like she had been there with some friends and maybe just couldn't get in. I don't know. They were hanging out. The police told my grandparents to change the locks on the house, probably in an attempt to, get her to want to come home. If she can't access her stuff, she's just going to knock on the door, right? No, that didn't happen. And that is officially the last time we know that she was suspected to have been somewhere.
We've had people tell us that they have seen her, but, you never know. You don't know what's true, what's not, and it's up in the air and just, we haven't got many leads over the many years. And supposedly she went and stayed the night somewhere after she saw Kendale because she didn't want to go back home. But they said they didn't know how she got there. They said they didn't know how she left and where she went. And then somebody else said that they had gone with her and she had left with somebody else and that other person came back, but she didn't come back and she never saw her again. So it's, I don't know if it's helpful or if it's not, or if it's just confusing,
It's very frustrating when you have somebody come forward after 19, well, I guess at the time that we found out 18 years to say that they knew that they had seen her after she was officially reported missing, and to say that when she saw her last, that she left under suspicious circumstances. And I can't go into more detail because we're still running it down, but it's very frustrating. It's frustrating because it's been so long, but it's also frustrating because it could be false. I want to say it could be bullshit, but I don't know if you could put that on your podcast. I'm sorry. I mean, it could be totally, it could be made up for attention. You know, there are people out there who have tried to come forward on her Facebook page saying, you know, they know where she is, and that turned out to be fake. Were just, you know, out to, yeah. And that, you know, that's always annoying. But, I mean, we do have to follow up on everything that we hear. So maybe this really annoying tip will turn out to be, you know, the one thing that actually helps us. It was typical for her to leave sometimes. I wouldn't say she necessarily ran away. She would be gone for a few hours at a time. Our mom would make me go look for her, would make me and Vanessa go look for her, even at 9 and 10 o'clock at night. And at one point we got a ticket because we were out after curfew and looking for her. It was a whole thing. But yeah, she would never leave for more than a few hours at a time. I can't even remember a time where she was gone for more than a day. But when she was gone, she would always call me. Like, she would call the house and just let me know that, you know, that she would be back. She was like, I just need to cool down.
Yeah, I remember when we went and looked for her, the cops didn't even believe us when they pulled up, and they called Betty to come get us, and that was the girl's adopted mom. And we told them, look, she told us to go look for our sister, and that's what we were doing. That's why we were out. And of course, you know, she was deny, but, you know, and nobody believed us because, you know, teenagers were probably lying anyway, probably what they were thinking. But yeah, I mean, the good thing was that she wanted to cool down. She didn't want to become too angry, you know, with someone. And she would walk, she would leave, she would call somebody to come get her, whether it be a boy or another friend or something. But I don't ever remember her being gone for a very long time. And she would always call Kendale because Kendale was her rock. She didn't want to be without Kendale. She didn't want to live without Kendale. I mean, anytime that Kendale moved or anything, she would try to follow her and try to be with her. So I know it was very hard on Sam when Kendale moved out and she couldn't live with her, and it was just a lot of shit was going on all at the same time when all this was happening in Sam's life, and I think it all kind of came crashing down. And maybe that's one reason why she left, because it was just too much to handle at the moment. Before Sam had moved in with Kendale in the grandparents' house, she had lived with their aunt after Betty had kicked all the girls out of the house. That's a whole nother part of the story. But she had stolen the aunt's car, and the aunt pressed charges, so she couldn't live with her aunt anymore. So she moved in with Kendale at the grandparents' house, and it was a lot of boy obsession going on. I can't remember if she was dating the same guy, but we have her agenda, her school agenda, and she had his name wrote all over it and how she loved him. And then there was also a couple other guys' names and, you know, all sorts of stuff. She was boy crazy. And then just not being with all her sisters and not being in the same way she grew up for so long, I think it really impacted her because it was such a huge change. And she went from somewhere that had a mom that was pretty disabled, who couldn't get upstairs and check and see if they had done any chores or anything like that, to a house that had a lot more structure and rules. And she sure as hell didn't like that. So, I mean, just everything was fully changing. And then when Kendale moved out, she really didn't like that because, like I said, Kendale, you know, was her glue that held her together. So
the only thing that I can really add is that when she went missing, it was roughly 2 months after I had moved out of my grandparents' house. So that also added to her stress.
If there was anything that initiated it, her going missing, I mean, really just accumulation of everything I talked about, and just probably her feeling pressure to, like, you can tell in her agenda, she wanted to be better she wanted to do better. And by that, I mean, like, I feel like almost it looked like she was trying to get her life together in a way. Like she was trying to be more organized and she was trying to do better with school. And then she would even write like about her being excited to go to church or anything like that. And I feel like maybe she was trying in a way, but I think she was having trouble with that because she was a little bit of a bad girl. She was a little bit of a rebel, and she definitely bucked up against authority that, or anything that she really didn't care for. I mean, that's how a lot of teenagers are, but sometimes she took it to the next level, for sure. But, I mean, she didn't have the easiest childhood. She already had, I'm sure, PTSD, I'm sure trauma. You know, I don't know if Sam remembered how it was when they were little before they were adopted or anything like that. I think Kendale still has some memories, but, you know, I don't know if she fully knew how to deal with anything that came at her besides runaway, you know. I don't know if she had tools to deal with it.
I think that she was living a life that was overwhelming, and I also think that her being bipolar played a lot into, you know, the choices that she made and the way that she felt about things. She felt in extremes. She was either really, really happy and really high, or she was really, really low, and I had to get her dressed for the day to go to school. I mean, there's a lot that I don't remember about that time. Like, it comes back in bits and pieces. Sometimes something will trigger a memory, but, you know, I'm 36 now. So, I mean, as you get older, like, you fill up those spaces with other stuff. And so I remember, like, the main things that I have considered important over the years about, you know, how she was at the time and you know, the way that I remember her and the way that I remember the events leading up to and following her going missing. But the specific things, like I said, her how she got to my house, which was 20 plus minutes in a car from where my grandparents' house was, or what she was wearing or anything like it, whether or not she had a cell phone. I'm pretty certain that she didn't, because I feel like my grandparents said that they called the house at one point to find out if she was there. So I feel like at the time she didn't have a cell phone. But again, like, that's just speculation based on the stuff that I've heard. I don't remember specifically a lot of things that I wish I did. If that's one thing that I can tell people is start writing down the things that you know about the people that you love. That's a really good thing about social media now too. I wish that we had social media back, you know, when I was 17, when she went missing at 16, because we would know a lot more. We would probably know what she was wearing that day, because everybody posts everything every day. I wish that we'd had that kind of documentation. I mean, we barely had MySpace.
I think Kendale and I asked each other, we've done it probably at least like freaking 10 times now. Either I text her or she texts me, and we ask each other the same question. Did Sam have MySpace? And we're both like, I don't fucking remember. I don't know.
I actually recently logged into my old MySpace account because you can access your legacy accounts. And so I was looking at all of the people that I had friends on MySpace, and I was looking at those people to see if they have friends in common with Sam. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I actually have a spreadsheet. It's terrifying. I went down a deep, dark rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all that I can do is to continue to, I mean, I can search online for anything. I mean, like I said, I have my master's in information technology. So, I mean, I do a lot of searching online. I do image searches and things like that. But, I mean, that's literally all I can do. It's still an open case, so I can't get any information from her file, which I could probably help on if I knew what was in there, but I can't. I mean, I've done an open records request, so I have some, like, a very small amount of information of what's in the file. Like, they sent me like a 2-page overview about the case, but that's it.
Yeah, and that was when it was it when it was reopened the second time, or just the first investigation?
It was when it was reopened.
Yeah, and it closed, I think, in 2015, that time.
Yeah, it was at the Attorney General's office when I requested the records request, and then they sent it back to Burleson PD, and that's when Lou Berry, the volunteer, is helping Burleson PD. He actually got on the case to assist. So he has access. But again, he doesn't have my brain and my knowledge about everything that happened. I guess it's a complicated situation. Like, he even has to send me messages sometimes like, who was this person again? I knew for a fact that she was missing when I hadn't heard from her in 24 hours. The following day, I called my grandparents and told them that something was really, really wrong. I said, she's not at the house, right? And they're like, no, we haven't seen her. I said, well, I haven't heard from her. So, we need to escalate this further. Like, this isn't just a runaway thing.
I think I called the grandparents' house. I either called the house or they called my parents' house. I can't remember which one it was, but I remember them asking me, have you seen Sam? And I said, no, why? And they said, she's run away. And I remember I was sitting on the floor because, for some reason, all kids sit on the floor. I don't know why we do that. And I had the phone in my ear, and I just remember handing the phone to my mom. My mom was sitting on the couch, and I just threw my face into the seat of the couch and I started crying. And my mom was like, what the fuck is going on? My mom's from New York, so every other word's a curse word. And she gets on the phone and she starts talking to the grandparents, and my mom's like, no, nobody's seen her, nobody's talked to her, we don't know anything. How long has it been going on? Stuff like that. And then I remember Kendale came up to my parents' work, and because my parents own their own business, and she talked to them about it. And I remember making missing flyers with my mom, and it was either me and my mom or me and Kendale that went to like parking lots and put it under car windshield wipers and stuff.
I don't want to dog on law enforcement because they have a hard job. But in this case, I feel like my experience has been that law enforcement gets involved, or another investigator, whoever gets involved, and they run through the case. They interview the same people that have already been interviewed that they suspect could know something. They find out that they have nothing, and then it gets passed on to the next investigator a year to 2 years later. Like, there hasn't been any, aha moment. There hasn't been any new evidence, basically. The only new information that has come through has been from somebody submitting information directly to me. I absolutely feel like at some point, one of the investigators on her case should have run through the list of contacts that were in her journal or in her phone book and in her agenda from school, because she had phone numbers for multiple people, probably 50. I feel like they at least should have contacted those people to find out if they knew anything. And if they didn't do that then, I still feel like it would be worth trying to do now. I mean, I have tried to track down people. It's hard for me because I don't have all the tech, and some people don't go by the same names anymore. It's a whole thing. I have found a few and reached out to them to no avail. And I also think that it's different when it's coming from law enforcement. They don't necessarily have to take me seriously. So, yeah, I mean, I would like to see them put in some work to talk to the people that we know that she was hanging out with at the time. And nobody has told me that that's something that they have done. And there have been 4 investigators that I have dealt with specifically, because they always reach out to me first to find out what I know. And then it's like the same cycle over and over. Like, I know exactly what to expect next, how long to wait for the next phone call, who they're going to ask me about next. It's the same process over and over and over. Yes, absolutely. Like, I want eyes on her case. I want whoever wants to work on her case to work on the case, but I want them to actually work the case and not just work the same leads that other detectives before them have been working on.
Anybody and everybody sees the word runaway and thinks, oh, well, she wanted to leave, so why bother looking for her? Well, she was 16. She wasn't 17, she wasn't 18, she wasn't a full adult, she was a child. She had no idea how to live on her own, how to function in society, how to do the basic, survival guide of life. And she definitely did give in to peer pressure, and, she was definitely more of a follower than a leader, and she would definitely, I could see her just going along with whatever and getting into a terrible situation. And I feel like even if it's a runaway, it needs to be serious because it's a child, no matter what. No matter who gives a shit if they chose to leave. I don't care. If it's my child, I want them back. I don't give a shit if they chose to leave on their own accord. They don't know what they want. They're children. And it's like Kendale said, it's like recycled, the same shit over and over and over again. They say, oh, well, this is what the last person found, so let's see if I can look up the same shit and dig something new up. And that the definition of crazy, doing the same thing and, getting the same outcome and doing it over and over and expecting something different. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And we know it's hard because there's, nothing. We have no idea about anything or anyone, and that's the hardest part. And we're not saying they didn't give any effort, obviously they did. We've had, like Kendale said, the report that she got from the Attorney General, and it was 2 pages, and I think that shit was open for several years, and it most of it, me and Kendale have sat down and gone through it, and I've asked her, okay, what about this? Who's this? What about this? And she's like, I think all of that shit's bullshit anyway. And it sounds like bullshit in those reports. And it's just, kind of like, you're the police. You should be able to get more information than we can. And right now we feel like we've been finding out more information than anyone else. So it's very like, what the hell are y'all doing kind of thing,
To law enforcement, we're not asking you to move mountains. We're just asking you to use your role and your position to, make phone calls on our behalf based on, the information that we have provided to you. We're already investigating. We're already helping. We want to help. But when we give information, all we expect is for you to make a phone call or, to look something up in whatever tools that you have. We just want you to do something based on the information that we find is important, because we live this life. And when we see something that we think is important, it's probably important.
And it's not probably important. It is important, and something needs to be done, because right now what's happening feels like nothing.
When she went missing, she was 5'5", between 110 and 120 pounds, and she was in good health. She, like I said, was bipolar, and at the time that she went missing, she wasn't on medication. She had been off of it for about a year, probably, but she was coping well. Like I said, she was a typical teenager with typical teenager feelings, and the main thing that I can say about her health or whatever at the time is that, as most people with bipolar have, she had her ups and she had downs. When she was up, she was super up and could be that way for weeks at a time, and when she was down, she was really, really down. Like, I can remember many times having to try to wake her up and having to dress her in while she's passed out in bed, pulling her to the car so that we could go to school. Luckily, those were less than the ups, but so yeah, she was in overall good health. I can't think of anything really that was going on other than the fact that she had her downs sometimes. I wouldn't say that she had a problem with drugs and alcohol, but I can't say, because again, she's bipolar. She would have experimented with drugs and alcohol in order to substitute her medication, because that's what people with bipolar disorder do. They quit their meds and then they, do drugs. To my knowledge, Vanessa and I are the only ones who have advocated for her in any way. There have never been any Amber Alerts for her. When we post things online, some of the family will like and share that information, but nobody other than Vanessa and I has actually initiated any kind of search for her.
It's frustrating.
Oh, this is always so hard for me. I guess the main theory the only plausible theory really that I can think of is that if she actually ran away and decided to stay away. So we know that initially she ran away because she was a runaway. But then after 24 hours, in my mind, she was officially missing. So in the event that she was actually a runaway, decided to stay away, I feel like she might have, I don't know, fallen into sex work or, something where she could stay off the grid because her social's never been used. She knows mostly how to take care of herself. And like I said, she knows how to be a chameleon. She's a people pleaser, knows how to blend in. But she's also very gullible and very impressionable. So I don't know. That's one of many theories. It seems like that could be something that she would have done. But as far as suspects, I can't think of anybody that I would think that I know personally would have any information that they wouldn't have told me or had any involvement. I wish that I had known more of her friends at the time. Like, obviously I would have met them in passing and stuff, but I wasn't hanging out with her and her friends. So I don't know as much about them as I would have liked to. So I'm not sure if one of them, might know something or might have wanted to do harm to her. But she wasn't the type of personality just to piss people off to the point where they want to hurt her, she was above all a people pleaser. She would butt heads with people, but in the end, if she had to, in order to make them happy, she would agree with them.
I agree with Kendall with just the theory that she could be in sex work, because we know that her Social Security has never been run. And, what's the oldest profession is prostitution. And what can you do to make damn good money and not have to ever have record of it? Prostitution. Could I see her doing that? Yes, because I know she was sexually active back then when she was young. And now I see, 14, 15, 16-year-olds, and they look like babies. And I can't believe we were doing shit like that when we were that age. But, that's how it is. You think you're grown, you do grown things. And I know she was smoking weed. I know she was drinking. And I know she told me she wanted to experiment with other things. So, usually sex work goes hand in hand with some sort of drug, especially when you have to do a lot of things you don't want to do. Absolutely. Do I want that life for her? Absolutely not. I want her to be living a good life and be happy, be a vet tech or a veterinarian and have lots of dogs and cats and have a family. But could that be reality? Yes. But do I think that is 100% her reality? No. But I also, I don't feel like she's dead. I don't know why either, but it's just hard to explain. It's a feeling that I have. I feel like Kendall has that same feeling where we feel like if she were dead, I feel like we would feel something or nothing. You know what I mean? It would be different than what we feel now. But we've had people tell us, like, what if she's in witness protection, and what if, somebody took her, and, all of that can absolutely be a possibility, but it's just up in the air. And she could have been caught up with the wrong crowd, wrong place, wrong time, absolutely. There's predators everywhere. There's terrible people everywhere. She could have easily become a victim, but I prefer not to think that way, but that also can be reality. So you have to be realistic. You don't have a choice.
She absolutely could have been sex trafficked. The most unsuspecting people get sex trafficked. So in her situation and being as gullible and young and pliable as she was, she definitely could have fallen into that. I sure as hell hope not, because that's terrible. My running theory is that my happy theory, because I have to stay in my happy place, is that she actually did run away and didn't want to have anything to do with us anymore because she was pissed at me for leaving and I was going to make her go back to where she didn't want to go. So she found some rich guy and ran off with him. And she just doesn't have to worry about anything anymore. She doesn't have to use her socials. She's living a cushy life and she's just fine.
Mm-hmm. That
Stranger things have happened.
Right. And she could also change her identity, change her name. Who knows?
One thing that I want people to remember about her is that she is a person. And that I want her back. I don't necessarily have to see her again. I really want to know whether or not she's okay. If she did leave of her own accord and doesn't want to have anything to do with this, I am 100% okay with that. I completely understand. It sucks. I'll get over it, but it won't be this. I won't be wondering every day, passing people on the street and turning my car around because they looked like her. I'll at least have some comfort knowing whether or not she is actually okay.
I want people to know that she is loved, she is missed, and though she's not perfect, which no one is by any means, and she's made mistakes, just like we all have, that she is always welcome wherever we are. We will welcome her with open arms, and that missed isn't even enough of a word. It's a void that it's created in both of us, especially Kendale for sure. And it hurts me to see her in pain from it. And we want that feeling back that she gave us, because she really did make an impact, even though, sometimes she was, a shithead. But she...
Indeed.
Yeah, she knows it's true. But, she was just a wonderful part of our lives that, you never think you're going to lose. And when it literally feels like we were holding her hand walking, and then we just let go for half a second and she just disappeared. It feels like she went poof. And that's the hardest part, because it feels like a piece of us is gone, because we were supposed to continue our lives with her and we didn't get to do that. And we had to become different people, I feel, because we didn't have her with us, I think it put us almost on different paths, and that, we just want more than just her back, if that makes sense.
If I was finally reunited with my sister, I feel like I would just feel calm, which is something I haven't had in a long time.
I don't know if I would feel calm. I think I would damn near knock her over the moment I saw her. I think I would run at her like I was a bowling ball, getting ready to knock down some pins. And I'd probably tackle her ass and just roll up on her, because I'd say, don't go anywhere. You're not allowed to go anywhere anymore. What the fuck? Probably is what I would do, because I've had dreams about it. I've had different dreams. And every dream that I have seen her, I've tried to run at her or tackle her in some form of fashion. And I'm not violent or, physical like that ever. But that's what I want to do, because I feel like I want to make sure it's real. You go touch him, that's the thing that, right. And I think I would just scream, and then probably I'd feel calm, like Kendale said. Kendale's a lot more, chill, but I think I would just lose my fucking mind. And I think Kendale would be too, but it might take her a minute to get that reaction.
I think I've lived in, I guess, a state of stress for so long that I think if I was reunited with her, I feel like I could finally just take a breath. I could stop, the wheels that are constantly running in my head. All of the, right. I could finally stop wondering. I mean, obviously I would freak out because I'm me. But I mean, mostly I feel like I would finally have some sense of normalcy in my life. Because on top of the day-to-day craziness that goes on in everybody's lives, we now have this that never goes away. This is a stress and an anxiety and a daily concern that never stops. Sam has been missing for 19 years as of October 12th of this year. She was 16 when she went missing. And she was listed as a runaway almost the entire time. As far as I can tell, the only time that she was finally upgraded to missing was last year. And 2022, she would have been upgraded to missing. And the thing that I want people that are listening to take away from this and to do after this is to talk about her to anybody who will listen. And I cannot make this up. A friend of mine at work got on an airplane, and she had listened to the podcast the week before. She got on an airplane, and the person who was sitting next to her knew about the story. Like, she had listened to the same podcast. And so, like, that's, you never know who you're going to run into that might have heard the same thing, or who hasn't heard it, who might know something, who can, shed some light on the situation. You never know. She could be literally anywhere. So whoever you can tell it to, whoever you can share it with, I don't care if you have 5 friends or 100,000 friends, share it with whoever you can. Her name is not out there nearly as much as it needs to be. And I really, really want that for her.
I think because she was listed as runaway, there was no Amber Alert. There was no... Hell, I don't even know if we had Amber Alerts back then. It was so long ago. I can't remember when that case happened. But there was no media attention. I don't even think there was anything in the newspaper. I don't think.
No, I've had people reach out to me and tell me that they've lived there all their lives, even went to school with her, and they had no idea that she was missing.
And usually, any missing case, you hear about it. I've even seen full YouTube videos about the tiniest cases. And I've heard, I don't know how many cases that are so similar to Sam's. I'm like, hold up a minute. Who is this? What are they saying? And then I'm like, oh shit, it's not Sam, but it sounds exactly freaking like it. And I think one of the biggest things was because there was not a lot of attention on it in the beginning, when it's the most fresh, that it really kind of screwed it, because that is the most important time, because everybody still remembers everything. And now it's been so long, it's hard. So yes, talk about her. She loved her nickname Sam, but she hated her nickname Samuel. So if you want, you can call her Samuel, because if anything, that might aggravate her ass enough to maybe send somebody a message and go, what the fuck are y'all doing?
I 100% agree.
She hated that shit, and we think it's hilarious.
We do think it's hilarious. We did. I used to call her Samuel all the time, just to get under her skin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So come on, Samuel, wherever you at, tell us. Just tell us you're still breathing. That's all we need.
So I want to go ahead and address and highlight a few things real fast. Over the years, there's been some mysterious incidents suggesting that Sam's still alive, such as unexplained cigarette butts and rearranged furniture found in her grandparents' backyard shortly after her disappearance. Despite Kendale's relentless efforts, the case remained classified as an quote-unquote endangered runaway. Kendale, along with a private investigator and a case advocate, continues to search for Sam to this day, following leads and even going as far as to keep the same phone number that Sam last remembered in hopes that her sister might contact her. And while they just barely made it to where they got the case classification changed to missing person, they still want to garner more attention and support for finding her sister, who would now be in her mid-30s.
Anyone with information about Samantha Tapp's whereabouts are encouraged to contact any of the following: the Burleson Police Department at 817-426-9903, the Texas Department of Public Safety Missing Persons Clearinghouse at 512-424-5074, or Private Investigations for the Missing at 866-331-6660, or PIFTM tips, TIPS, at gmail.com. We will be sure to include this in the episode notes.
We want to urge anyone with any information to hit up the links in the phone number that Amanda just shared. Please take a look at the show notes for more sources and information. We really want to reiterate that this is an ongoing investigation and we do not know whether Samantha Tapp is actually living or deceased. But we are hoping with the help of you all as citizens that some kind of resolution will take place. This is a heartbreaking and confusing time for anyone to have to endure, so if there's any chance of some kind of positive outcome, we will absolutely take that chance. Please think about what you all would do had this been one of your loved ones. You certainly wouldn't give up. Even on the days where it's tempting to think the worst, you can't afford that kind of thought process if you want to keep your head sober enough to pick up the fine details in any investigation. And Sam, on the slim chance that you yourself are listening, we're respectfully asking that you reach out in some way. At least let your family and your closest friends know in some way, in any way, that you're okay. They are seeking any sign that they can, be it from heaven or earth, just to know that you are alive. They might feel it in their gut, but the closure and peace they so desperately want and need is in of itself heart-shattering, and I can only empathize with them fully. To lose anyone you love dearly and not have any idea what's going on and even how they are doing is jarring and a nightmare that one can only hope to wake up from with some kind of positive resolution. It's like walking blind in a dark alleyway with no flashlight. Nobody's helping you. You're searching for your, for lack of a better term, most prized possession. Or like someone had dropped your wedding ring in what appears to be quicksand. You know there's a chance, albeit slim, you could find it, but you have to rely on any tool within grasp to help you. You know it's around, but in order to find it, you have to rely on all of your senses to garner proper clues as to where it could be. It's frustrating. So please, if you are listening, or if anyone of you listening knows of Sam's whereabouts, please put a few lovely ladies' minds at ease and hearts at rest, because they are, as well as Samantha Tapp, strong, resilient, but vulnerable. Because Sam was labeled as such, as a quote-unquote endangered runaway, we are hoping that this episode can possibly get her attention if she's still alive, and hopefully reunite this bee with her hive. We must protect bees at all costs, for without bees, we as a human race cannot survive and thrive in life. So be vigilant, for when you mess with the bees,
you get the hive.
Thank you for listening to A Nefarious Nightmare. Music used in the theme was originally by Ghost Stories Incorporated, remixed by Ryan RCX Murphy. Additional background music is provided by Epidemic Sound. A Nefarious Nightmare is scripted, researched, and produced by Courtney Fenner and Amanda Cronin. I'm Lainey Hobbs, and as always, be vigilant, for when you mess with the bees, you get the hive.